Hey, this is Troutbitten. Thanks for joining me. Welcome back to the 9 essential skills for tight line and Euro nymphing. We are on number 8. This is all about strike detection in hook sets. We also want to start by thinking about how a trout really eats, well, the real bug. And then how can we detect that strike up above? What is our sighter really going to do? Things that we can see. Expectations is what that's all about. You don't just set on anything. That's bad advice. Set on anything? No. Set on anything unusual or unexpected. And then when we set the hook, we're not just lifting. This is way too slow. You don't just lift to see what happens. You set the hook. I say this all the time, set fast, not far. I'm gonna say that a few times during this video. So let's think about it. How the trout eats, how we detect the strike, and how we set the hook. Put them in the net. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, let's really think then how a trout eats the real nymph. You got a trout, let's say sitting on the bottom in that strike zone. His belly's on the bottom of the river. We have to assume that everything that I'm about to say is what a trout does most often. Sure, they're gonna eat other ways, but this is what they're doing most often. Belly on the bottom of the river. Here comes the nymph, the real nymph. Let's say it's my thumb. And the trout just opens its mouth and lets the nymph go in. As soon as it realizes, hey, I shouldn't have eaten that, that's something hard, it's not the real bug, it takes the water, instead of having the water go in its mouth and through its gills, it reverses that flow. The water goes through the gills and out the mouth. So it spits out our fly real easily. It spits out anything that it didn't want in its mouth and knows it made a mistake, and it's out. I mean, it is that fast. You can see videos here on YouTube of that happening. You can see underwater videos of trout eating and pushing it out. That's what spitting it out is. And I mean that happens in a split second. Why wouldn't it? Just as fast as they can get it out, they eject it. So our strike detection then needs to not just match that speed, but kind of beat that speed. We got to acknowledge that probably most, or at least a lot, of the fish that we actually catch on a nymph, they couldn't get it out of their mouth. You know, the hook stuck. And then we had our chance to set. We kind of got lucky. I think of it this way. I don't want to get lucky. I want to be good at setting that hook fast after I'm good at detecting the strike. So another thing, when that trout has its belly on the bottom, we got to expect that it's not going to move over 3 feet to get a nymph. Sometimes they do. Usually for a 16, 18, 14, even a 12 or a 10 size nymph, it's not going to move over 3 feet. It's not going to move over 5 feet. It's right here, especially in a bug-rich environment and with a lot of food down there. Any time of the year, then there's a lot of food down there. It's not that the bugs have to be active. There's just a lot of food in this river right now. Even though we don't see anything hatching, there's a lot of opportunity. So when they eat, they're not gonna go over there and expend more energy than they need to. They're just gonna open their mouth, let the nymph drift in. I would assume that they might move over a foot. I always say a trout's range is like this, like this, like this, like this. We're talking about that most common average trout. The average thing to expect down there is maybe a foot over, here, here, or here. My point is, they're not gonna go over here and grab and come back. And that is really important then to understand what our trout is doing under there. How they eat informs how we're gonna detect the strike up above the water. Hey, this video is sponsored by our friends over at Trout Routes. Trout Routes is an angler's app. It's for you and me. Aggregates a ton of data about river levels and water temperatures, blue ribbon trout streams, Class A wild trout streams, where you can find trout and where you can find public access to those rivers. So wherever you're fishing, you can find out a lot more about not just the water you're on, but the areas around you. Find new water, spread yourself out, have new experiences, right? So you can get 20% off your pro membership at maps.troutroutes.com. Tell them Troutbitten sent you. Use the code Troutbitten. Let's think about strike detection above the water. First of all, it's visual. You don't feel it very often. If you do feel it, if you feel the hit, you're also gonna see it. If they move that line or move that fly, which moves your line, enough that you feel it, you're gonna see it too. So strike detection is reliably visual, but you can't rely on the feel. So we don't set on anything. I said that earlier. That is bad advice. Well, it's beginner's advice, and it's fair to set on anything at first. But we have a series of expectations. The more you fish, the more wide that set of expectations really becomes. And you start to say, no, I know I'm gonna expect to slow down here. I know it might touch there. I'm not gonna set, I'm gonna keep the drift going. That's something unusual, and then I set. That's what you're looking for. Set on anything unexpected or unusual. So this whole mono rig system, any tight line system really, is set up for strike detection. That's the point. Contact nymphing, a contact system, is your best bet at having excellent strike detection. But every other skill that we went through, from angling approach to tuck cast to sticking the landing and finding contact, leading through, every other thing that came before this 8th part sets us up to use this system to its maximum effectiveness, and we really will then have excellent strike detection. Just using a mono rig, a tight line system, is not going to guarantee you good strike detection at all. But when you use it right, you do start to really be able to read what that nymph is doing by reading the sighter above. And we've talked about that in the other skills. So what is unexpected then? What are we really looking for? When should we set the hook? What's unusual? Well, last time in just part 7 of this skill series, we talked about leading the flies through the strike zone. We talked about bottom bouncing, ticking the bottom on purpose. And we talked about just tracking the flies. You have to understand what your goal is, and that's going to inform, well, what's unusual. You're going to have a set of expectations when you're tracking, to start with that. Again, tracking is just putting the flies in the water, a light system, letting the river push the flies downstream. You don't expect them to touch the bottom. So you don't expect the sighter to really move much at all once you have contact. If you're tracking, set on almost anything, because anything is going to be unexpected. Any little tick, tap, anything in the sighter, set when you're just tracking the flies. Now, if your goal is to get down into the strike zone, which is that cushion of water on the bottom, we've talked about the strike zone a lot during this series. You're trying to get your nymph into this zone very close to the bottom and just lead them through then. Well, you're also going to accidentally tick the bottom once in a while when you're in a strike zone. You're going to touch a tall rock. So you're expecting, first of all, the slowdown of that strike zone. We talked about that in this series, how to read for the strike zone. So I put it in. The first thing I expect if I'm getting a strike zone ride is that slowdown of the strike zone. I shouldn't set on that, because then I just hit the top of the strike zone and then I set. Top of the strike zone and set. You don't want to do that. You want it to get into the strike zone and then you lead it through. So I expect the slowdown, and then as I'm leading through, I might not set on anything, but the reason I'm fishing the strike zone is because I think I'm going to get a hit. So I'm very ready to set if I'm doing strike zone rides once it's in the zone. Also, if I'm doing strike zone rides and I don't think I'm in the zone at all yet, and I get some kind of twitch or tap on the sighter, I'm going to set then too. The next and the last way to really think about this and talk about expectations is, if you're bottom bouncing, you have a lot more guessing to do. Is that a fish or is that a rock? Is that a fish or is that a rock? Tap to tap, tap to, I don't know. Now, the longer you bottom bounce, the more you do set those expectations. And it does become more about feel then. It's still going to be visual, but you're going to combine that visual thing, like the odd things, the unusual things that are happening on the sighter, with then how it kind of feels, and then you'll set on what I say is like a soft hit. When it touches a rock, it usually feels a little harder, tap to tap. You get used to that feeling. If you're ticking 5 times throughout a drift, tick to tick, 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 you expect that feel. And then all of a sudden, something is just a little softer, set on that. The other thing when I'm bottom bouncing, the other unexpected thing is any actual pause. Instead of a tick and go, you get any pause, stop, even if it's, a millisecond, whoop, set the hook. That's strike detection. We're looking at the sighter and we're waiting for it to do something unusual. But know what your goals are. Are you tracking? Are you getting in the strike zone and trying to lead it through? Or are you bottom bouncing on purpose? So when you know you have the trout, or when you think you do, you see something unexpected, how are we gonna set? Fast, not far. 10-inch hook set, I mean it. You can set as fast as you want, but just set at 10 inches. Bad things happen when you take, let's say, a dry fly kind of set real far out of the water. One of my pet peeves is when people say trout set. There is no trout set. We fish for so many different ways for these trout. So there's not one way that I set the hook on a trout set. What people really mean when they say trout set is a dry fly set. When I'm fishing dry flies, it's important to understand the difference here, the concept. Fishing dries, I'm providing slack. I have slack on the surface so I get a good dead drift on top, usually. And then when I see the fish eat, there's my strike detection. You see the fish, you need to lift the line off the water. Line off the water, pick up all the slack. A lot of times there could be 4 or 5 feet of slack. So if this was a dry fly rig, I'd be out here, whatever I'm fishing, I got line on the water, and then I'm gonna set. I might set that far, and there goes the fly, it's out of the water. Cool, that's a dry fly. Cannot effectively take those dry fly hook setting concepts, your trout set, to a nymph. Don't do it. Don't take it all the way out of the water. Don't set far. Set fast, not far. Now here's what I mean by this. I'll turn toward you so you can really see it. It's all in my arm and my wrist. It's almost just a real quick squeeze and just a real quick pop. This is how I hook set. I'm here, I find a reason, boom, I set the hook. You wanna watch my wrist here? You can watch the line too, but there, that's it. I don't care how fast you go in between those 2 points. You're not gonna break the tippet. You could be using 8x tippet, 6, 7, 8x tippet, and if you just do that, you're gonna be faster than the fish. We talked about how the fish eats and real quickly ejects anything unnatural out of its mouth. You can be faster than the fish that way. Hopefully, your strike detection is real good. You make a very quick decision and you, boom, set the hook. You see, the fly isn't coming out of the water at all. It's only, I can't see the nymph, but it's only coming up like it's here and it might go whoop, and then it can drop again. Well, if I wanted to continue the drift, I use this same motion as what I call a check set. Check to see if something is there. I'll check and then keep going. Check and keep going. If you have enough weight, we've got bugs out here today. If you have enough weight, if you have a nice fast current, I'll use the check set sometimes. Another way that I use this same hook set, watch it again, this motion right here. That motion, I use it a lot. Say this was a streamer, I go here, here, here. A little jerk and strip, jerk, strip, or just twitch as the fly is coming downstream. Again, if this was a streamer, I might go boom, change direction, boom, boom. This ability, this doesn't come naturally. You have to kind of do it on purpose. I don't think you're accidentally just gonna get to the point where you can do this hook set, where you just go, pow. 10-inch hook set. You see that as I'm moving my arm, I'm not moving my arm, I'm moving my wrist. It's here, here. I said there's a squeeze, and I'm only moving that hand 6 inches, 4 inches, boom, boom. With the rod in my hand again, boom, boom. If you look at what the rod tip does, then the rod tip might be moving about that much. And then as it translates to the fly, I believe the fly's only moving, I say 10 inches. It could be less than that, 4, 6, 10 inches. You don't need more than that. You're already tight to the fly. It's a tight line system. You already have contact. Even when we're slipping contact and erring on the side of a little less tension, that's all you need is that, let's say, 10-inch hook set. I'm coming down through, I'm nymphing, I got a reason to set, boom, and I'm out. It's a short, fast acceleration. Again, fast, but not far. If I go fast and far, I am gonna break tippet. I can break 4x that way. Maybe even 3x that way. If I go just as hard and fast as I can, boom, that's how you break them off. You see that plenty too. We can all get excited out here and kind of do the wrong thing. So I'm drifting, and then bam. Now, you're gonna see it done the other way. You're gonna see your buddy who's a great angler maybe, coming through here and he'll go like this. And he'll tell you this is all you need to do. Just that. Oh, just lift. Just lift. I hear that a lot. I see that a lot. I've had people tell me, well, if I do this, I'm gonna break the tippet. I already acknowledge you're not gonna break the tippet because you're not moving it far. But if you just lift, look how much slower that is. Now again, we're talking fractions of a second here, but it matters. If all I do is, if I'm coming down through here, I'm looking for my reason and I say, I just lift. Well, that fly went like this instead of like that. It's a big difference. I promise you're gonna land more fish and get better hook sets even, just sharp hook sets. This is why you don't need specialized hooks. You don't need extra thin wire. Sharp points are nice, but you don't need specialized anything to make all this work if your habits are good. I've been talking about that all the way through this series. I get a good hook set if I'm like this, but if I just come and just lift that up. I've had a lot of people tell me that, hey, I had another guide and they said, all I want to do is lift. On this tight line setup, all I should do is just lift. That is so slow. You're so behind the fish. And the problem is you're still going to catch fish doing it that way, right? And then you'll think, oh, I got it right. You're going to have it better by coming up in here and just pow, set the hook. You can practice this at the end of every drift. I do this. Josh pointed it out to me years ago. He said, why do you know, at the very end, if I didn't have a reason, I'm gonna, boom, set anyway. That kind of gets the whole system activated. I got a drift here, I don't have a reason, let's say, and right there I should pick up and recast. So bam, I set, and then I go. They say it gets the system activated. We said, like, the fly comes up. And so that gets the line kind of coming up through the column. Gets everything kind of starting to come out of the water. And I don't, though, go hook, set, and out. Again, that would be fast and far. Watch this. This is, let's say live, this is how I do it. I'll go hook set, okay, nothing there, and back out. Rarely do I reestablish. I called that a check set earlier. I mean, that's kind of rare for me. So if I'm riding that strike zone and I'm coming through, I'll set, okay, not a fish, and now I'm out. Next cast. Fast, not far. That's what does it. Not slow. Don't just lift. The fish will beat you. All right, so think about how a trout really eats the nymph. How does it take that nymph? Again, it usually isn't real aggressive. It's a pretty subtle eat most times. Then think about whether you're tracking, whether you're hitting the strike zone and leading through, or you actually intend to bounce the bottom and tick. And what's unusual? What's unexpected? That's what you're gonna set on. You wanna know what your goals are, and know what you're expecting, then you have your strike detection. Then think about setting fast, not far. Practice it all the time at the end of the drift, yes. I want to point out too, when you guess wrong, that's just not just part of the game, it is the game. Just drifting through and going, maybe, no. You're gonna do that 50 times. Maybe, no. That's not a mistake. That's nymphing. I mean it. It might be 50 times, and then the 51st time, there's your trout. Not a mistake. It's part of the game. It is the game. Next time, we're wrapping up this 9 Essential Skills series with part 9, putting it all together. And we'll try to do that, do some fishing, really kind of show all the stuff in action. But really, that's what the Fish and Film series is for. You can find that in the playlist here on the Troutbitten YouTube channel. There's 9 or 10 of those videos now. Those are the fishing videos. It shows all of this stuff in action. This is kind of the educational side with this 9 Essential Skills series. And the Troutbitten Tips shows you a lot of that stuff. So, fish hard, have fun out there.